Okay.
Hey, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Graham.
This is Ashkahn.
And today's question is...
Let me give you some. I'm gonna back you up with the question.
All right, do it. What's the most accurate representation of float tanks in TV or movies, do you think?
That was good. It was a nice
We
question.
can just skip the intro and start making our
that
questions into music.
What was the most accurate representation?
Yeah, did you absorb
I
any of
wasn't
that
really
question?
listening. Yeah, go ahead. Say it again.
What's the most accurate representation of float tanks in TV or movies, do you think? And you, in this case, refers to both of us.
I see. Talking to me. So...
Us. What do you think, though?
Well, let me start throwing some contenders out. Let me throw some contenders out.
Simpsons?
The Simpsons. The Simpsons one wasn't bad. It was pretty small. Like, it was much smaller than a float tank would be.
Right, kind of like a float capsule.
Yeah, and they lifted you up and put Homer into the back of a truck, and they fell down a cliff.
But Lisa's experience was not bad.
True.
Like, as far as it goes, like for like a psychedelic kind of float, like she had a good
like
one. I
epiphany
actually thought
sort of
that might be
float.
one of my votes. Actually, was like Lisa's experience in The Simpsons.
Let's throw it on the board.
Or just decide right now. Like I think
that's it. All right, cool.
All right, bye everyone.
Have a good day.
All right.
So that's a good one. I think Stranger Things gets a pretty good mention. I mean, they actually went out of their way to like explain what the heck was going on.
I don't know how they heated up the little kiddie pool.
No, that part wasn't very good.
But like a titanium inline heater to bring that thing up as fast as they did. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not sure
here?
like an egg is quite as good of a system as a hydrometer. Like they just put an egg in there. So that probably wasn't the best. But
we did use an egg in Float On for our first few years in business to measure it. So.
Yep, yeah. And it would just cook as it went through the heater. And
you got a little float dinner going.
So, they did, at least they like kind of explained, they got the amount of salt that goes in pretty right, which was nice.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I mean, we've seen news broadcasts where they don't get that right. Like,
let's go check out this flotation device where they put in 20,000 pounds of Epsom salt per 100 gallons of water.
So like they did better than real people reporting on real life, which is impressive.
Which you never expect from fake people.
So
there's the classic Altered States.
Yeah. I mean, Altered States
also didn't do a terrible job.
Yeah. I mean, well, there was the whole
what?
Devolving into the monkey thing.
Like I was saying, they did not do a terrible job.
Well, like everything else about the float tank seemed pretty legit.
When they go to find it and it's just covered in salt and stuff, like the old float tank, they're like, let's repair this. I'm like, yeah, it's probably been inactive for one day.
So yeah, that part. But they also had the back to container float tank thing in the beginning, which I'm not sure if anything quite like that ever existed.
But we did use one for the first few years and Float On.
Yeah, it held the eggs a lot better than modern float tanks. Frasier had an episode with a float tank in it.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and they don't say anything wrong. I mean, it's there. It's visually in one of the shots, and it's just kind of used as a plot device. They don't exactly explain it very much or anything, but it's certainly nothing inaccurate happened during the period of time that the float tank was on the show.
Yep.
I got to give that some credit.
Yeah, I believe you.
There's Fringe. I haven't really seen Fringe, but it seems like someone gets into a float tank and travels through time or dimensions or something.
Which also, again, sounds remarkably accurate, too.
Inhabits other people's bodies. I don't exactly. I should probably watch the show, I guess. But I'm pretty sure it's something like that. It's something like they're a demon. They inhabit other people. And then each episode ends with them getting exorcised out of the person they inhabit. No, I read the Wikipedia page. I'm pretty sure that's the show.
What about Minority Report?
Yeah, so that one's interesting.
Yep.
Because they actually hired a float tank manufacturer.
Which is awesome.
To build that, and design that crazy thing.
So if you, were you to have 3 psychic floaters you wanted to throw into kind of a joint 3-person float tank,
to put in there?
That is the actual float tank.
They kind of pooped out little prediction balls or something?
Yeah, that would be, that you would, there one exists. There's a manufacturer who's already built that float tank. So in that sense, it is designed by a real manufacturer.
The story we heard is the director of Minority Report, whose name I don't know, went and floated and had a really good experience and got inspired to put that sort of thing into the movie, and then I found a kind of float manufacturer to help him design the thing for the movie set. So that's actually a little piece of float inspiration.
You mean Steven Spielberg?
Oh shit! Is it really Steven Spielberg?
That's what you said that, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, well, you get to look it up, so let's not give yourself too much
I was just
credit
confirming it. Thanks for breaking the fourth wall there. Yes, what I did when Ashkahn talked was confirm that he said something horribly wrong off screen. Or off tape. Off, what do you call this? Off podcast?
Yeah, off mic.
Off mic, there we go. Yeah.
So far we've chosen a lot of things that all seem pretty good.
Okay.
I don't know about the fringe one. I'm not sure if you really inhabit other people's bodies as a demon when you
and
get
that
into the
Frasier one
float tanks.
sounded cool. But, what about...
Let's read the question again. What was it specific? Like the most accurate description?
What is the most accurate representation of float tanks in TV or movies?
So like the thing is, the less they say about it, the less likely they are to get anything wrong, you know? So like the most accurate thing is probably like something where
someone referencing it.
There was
floating the other day.
There was an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia as well with a float tank in it, and they literally just like showed the float tank for a moment, and that was pretty much the end of it. And so like that's pretty accurate. Like they didn't get anything. Oh, actually, you know what? It was like sitting out in the middle of a mall or something, and not even like in a room. So maybe that one doesn't count. We'll cut that one from the list.
Yeah. Johnny LaRue's Discount Drive-O-Rama.
That's true. That one's pretty...
That one's actually, like, other than the joke part of it, it's shockingly accurate.
The part where they climb inside of a float tank?
Yeah, and
there's
they're
an entire
smoking a cigar
subterranean layer with dozens of people partying in there?
But, like, they call it, like, Tank 3 and Tank 6 and, like, the beginning until they get the like, visual punchline. It's actually, like, remarkably accurate.
All right, yeah. Although it's also, I think, the least accurate depiction of float tanks in the media as well. I think it also has that award.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and say it. That's the most and least accurate.
That's it. All right. That's our answer.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything out there, again, other than something that, like, references it only, like, very lightly, that gets things 100% correct.
Uh-huh.
And I actually can't think of too many just completely, like, negligent representations of float tanks, other than ones that, like, the Bacta tank kind of altered states one, where they stray very far from reality, kind of consciously, you know?
Yeah. Or maybe Johnny LaRue's Discount Drive-O-Rama
with a giant subterranean, but that's a joke, you know. It's, or it's like Homer getting tossed in the back of a truck, you know. Can you think of any, like, you know, it's like a drama, or their purpose is not to make a joke, like they're trying to actually realistically depict a float tank, and they just do the worst. They just like bomb, like all the facts are wrong.
I don't know. Like float tanks don't really show up that much, and I think we just named like every reference
size.
I know of.
And like I think usually what happens is for these shows, like someone suggested they include a float tank, and that person probably knew about them.
Yeah, they had
or,
someone
like,
had to have
floated
floated at some point, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're
Short Bus is another one I actually think does an kind of okay job.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, for sure. It shows two people. It's like a couple's float tank. It has someone smoking inside one.
Well, here's the thing.
But it's made out of wood. Which is dangerous, you know.
There's this old float tank from the 80s called the Floatarium, and if one of you out there has an old Floatarium, there's a manual that comes with the Floatarium from the 80s. There were some Floatariums built that had hot tub features, hot tub jets built into the float tank, and they put like a lip on the ground in the middle of the float tank so that you could prop your legs against it and like sit upright in the back. And literally the like instructions manual for the old Floatarium has a picture of two people sitting in the back of a float tank with champagne glasses in their hands, like drinking champagne with hot tub jets on in a float tank. And that's real. That's like real life. So
yeah, there you go. Like most movie and TV references get it better than manuals for float tanks. Or at least that one.
All right, so that's it. We got Discount Drive-O-Rama as the winner and loser.
And if you have more kind of fun, non-controversial topics to ask us, definitely shoot them along to...
I spaced. What's the website?
Floattanksolutions.com/podcast.
I know that one. All right. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.